Title: The Abandoned Radio Station That Still Broadcasts After Midnight. Subscribe before midnight, or the static will find you first. That's the line Evan Ward used to end every episode of his podcast, Ghost Frequencies. It started as a passion project, just late-night recordings about haunted places, lost broadcasts, and unexplained phenomena. But this story was supposed to be his big break. The mystery came from a listener named Caleb, who lived in a tiny Colorado town called Red Pine Ridge. He'd sent Evan an email titled, "The Beacon Still Speaks." Inside was a single recording, just static, and a woman's faint voice whispering, "Stay tuned." The file was time-stamped 12:03 a.m., the same minute the original station went dark in 1979. At first, Evan thought it was a prank. Then he played it again. The voice said his name. That's when he packed his recorder, camera, and a small AM radio, and drove through the Rockies to find the truth behind the old transmission. The town looked frozen in time wooden buildings leaning with age, one gas station, and a diner that hadn't updated its menu since the 70s. When Evan asked the locals about the beacon, their faces changed. Eyes darted away, conversations cut short. One old man at the counter whispered, "That tower doesn't talk to people, it listens." Evan laughed it off, but something about the way the man said it stuck. By dusk, he'd found the dirt road that led into the forest. The air turned colder as the sun dipped, the trees crowding close, their branches knotted like hands. After 2 miles, he saw it, the abandoned radio tower. It stood crooked, metal rusted and pitted, its cables humming faintly in the wind. At the base sat a small station building boarded windows, a broken sign barely legible, 103.6. The beacon. Evan set up his gear just outside. The woods were deathly quiet, no crickets, no wind, just the low hum of the tower's corroded cables. He turned on his radio and dialed to 103.6. Nothing but static. Then, at exactly 12:03 a.m., the static changed. It became rhythmic, soft pulses, like breathing. Then came the voice. "You're listening to the beacon. We never signed off." Evan froze. The voice was female. Well, steady, calm, like a host reading the news, but beneath it, there was something else. A faint echo, like 2 people speaking at once. He hit record. This is Evan Ward of Ghost Frequencies. If anyone can hear this, the voice cut through the static again, sharper now. "Evan Ward," it said. He stopped breathing. The transmission distorted, growing louder until his radio screeched with feedback. He shut it off, heart pounding. He took a deep breath, convincing himself it was interference, a coincidence. Then he noticed something on the side of the building, faint light seeping from the cracks in the boarded windows. He went inside. The smell hit him first, dust, rust, and something sweet and sour, like decayed flowers. The broadcast room was intact, microphones still in place, a single reel-to-reel recorder sitting on the desk. The red on-air sign flickered faintly, powered by nothing. The tape reels began to spin. A voice crackled through the speakers. "This is Margot Lane, signing off from the beacon. If you're still out there, run." The tape hissed, then reversed itself. The same voice, whispering backward. Evan leaned in, trying to make out the words. Then the studio lights flickered. The temperature dropped so sharply his breath misted in front of him. From somewhere beyond the doorway came a faint hum, the same frequency as the static. It grew louder, closer. He turned his flashlight toward the hall. Through the glass window, the reflection of the broadcast room shifted. For a split second, he saw another version of himself sitting in the host's chair. Yeah. Dee phones on, whispering into the mic. Then the reflection smiled. Evan stumbled back, his equipment crashing to the floor. The reel-to-reel recorder stopped spinning. The room was dead silent except for the tower's faint metallic creak outside. He picked up his recorder and whispered, "There's something wrong here. The air feels charged, like electricity before a storm." As he stepped toward the door, a voice came softly through his radio, though it was switched off. "Stay for one more broadcast." He froze. The sound wasn't coming from the radio anymore. It was coming from beneath the floorboards. He pressed his ear to the ground. Static. And then faint voices. Dozens of them. Crying, whispering, overlapping like people trapped between frequencies. The wooden boards beneath him began to vibrate, just enough for dust to rise. He stumbled back, tripping over the fallen tripod. His camera flickered on by itself, its lens pointed at the mic. Through the viewfinder, he saw movement, faint outlines forming from the air. Silhouettes standing behind the chair, where his reflection had been. The tape reels began to spin again. The voice returned, calm and measured. "Welcome back to the Beacon. Tonight's guest, Evan Ward." Then a knock on the wall behind him. 3 slow, deliberate knocks. The tape stopped. And through the silence, the radio whispered one final phrase. "Broadcast complete." Evan looked down at his recorder. It was still running. The red light blinked steadily. He exhaled shakily, turned to leave, and realized the door he came through was gone. In its place stood another broadcast room identical, but cleaner, brighter, newer. A calendar on the wall read October 1979. And from the other side of the glass, a woman in an old-fashioned headset smiled at him through the haze. "Ready to go live, Mr. Ward." Evan blinked hard. The room in front of him looked exactly like the photos he'd seen from the Beacon's final broadcast in 1979, right down to the typewriter on the desk, the vinyl records stacked in the corner, the vintage on-air sign glowing bright red. But the air felt wrong. It wasn't just colder, it buzzed, like the static from his radio had seeped into the walls. "Hello?" he called softly. "Is anyone here?" His voice didn't echo. It just stopped, swallowed by the hum that pulsed beneath the floor. Through the glass, the woman in the headset still watched him, dark hair perfectly pinned, lipstick the color of dried blood. She looked like she'd stepped out of a different decade. Slowly, she raised her hand and gestured toward the microphone on the desk. Evan felt his body move before his mind caught up. He sat down, staring at the mic. The label beneath it read 103.6 The Beacon, live feed. A soft click echoed through the room. The mic turned on by itself. "Go ahead, Evan." The woman's voice came through the intercom. "Tell them your story." He hesitated. "Who are you?" Her smile didn't fade. "Margot Lane. I used to host here. You've heard my voice before." Evan's blood ran cold. The 1979 recording, the one that said, "Run." Margot continued, her tone calm, almost hypnotic. "We've been waiting for someone to listen again. Someone who remembers what the world forgot." "Don't understand," Evan whispered. "You died here." Her head tilted slightly. "No, Evan. I broadcast here." The static in the room grew louder. pressing against his eardrums. He lifted his recorder, desperate to capture everything, but the red light blinked erratically. His camera's clock flashed at 12:03 a.m., though he'd been there for hours. Then Margot's voice came through the speakers again, but this time it was doubled. The same sentence repeated with a half-second delay. One version in her normal tone. The other, her lower, distorted. You're listening to the beacon. You're listening to the beacon. Evan slammed the stop button. The voice didn't stop. Instead, the walls began to shake softly at first, then harder, like something enormous was shifting beneath the building. Dust rained from the ceiling. The typewriter on the desk started typing on its own, each metallic clack echoing like a heartbeat. He leaned up over it and read the words as they appeared. They hear you now. The lights flickered. Margot was gone. Through the glass, the broadcast room on the other side was empty, but the chair she'd been sitting in was still spinning. Evan backed away slowly, tripping over a loose cable. The hum beneath his feet was louder now, deeper, almost like a voice trying to form words from the vibration. He turned toward the exit door, but where the doorway should have been, there was only a black wall of static, faintly shimmering like a TV screen with no signal. He reached out a trembling hand. It was cold and soft, like fog that resisted touch. Then, through it, came a whisper, dozens of voices overlapping, all speaking his name. Evan. 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 He stumbled back, hitting the desk. His elbow knocked over a coffee mug still warm, though this place hadn't existed for decades. The clock on the wall ticked backwards, each second louder than the last. Then, a single chime like a bell. The static wall pulsed once, twice, and cleared. Evan found himself outside again, standing under the rusted tower. His breath came in sharp, cold bursts. He turned in a full circle. The building behind him looked old again, boarded up, no light inside. Had he imagined it? He pulled out his recorder, hands shaking. The last file was still running. He hit playback. The sound was faint, at first static. Wind, then a voice. His own. This is Evan Ward, coming to you live from 103.6 The Beacon. He stopped the playback immediately. He hadn't said that. He'd never said that. A fresh wave of dread washed over him. He rewound and listened again. The voice continued. And tonight, our guest is you. Don't turn off your radio. Suddenly, his phone buzzed in his pocket. Unknown number. Against his better judgment, he answered. There was no greeting, no delay, just the same woman's voice. You sound good on the air, Evan. He froze. Margot? Don't come back, she whispered. The signal's awake now. It's looking for new frequencies. The line went dead. Evan stood there, the wind cutting through the trees, the radio tower groaning in the dark. His car was parked a mile away, but as he started down the path, his handheld radio crackled on inside his bag. Welcome back to the Beacon, broadcasting to all those who listen, and those who can't stop listening. His name echoed once more through the static, followed by a second voice lower, rougher, too deep to be human. Stay tuned. The tower lights flickered red behind him, one by one, until only the top beacon glowed like a watchful eye in the fog. And when he finally reached his car, The digital clock on the dashboard didn't read 3:17 like it should have. It read 12:03 a.m. Evan didn't sleep that night. He tried, but every time he closed his eyes, he heard the static, low and steady, like something breathing through the wires in his hotel wall. He unplugged every electronic device, even the clock, but the sound kept coming from somewhere inside the room. At 12:03 a.m., his phone turned on by itself. The screen glowed white, then filled with a radio frequency display of 3.6 MHz. He stared at it, pulse racing. Then the voice came faint, broken through static. "Evan, are you still listening?" It was Margot. He grabbed his recorder, pressing record. "What do you want from me?" Her voice cracked through, warped and uneven. "Not me, them. They want the broadcast to continue." He swallowed hard. "Who's them?" There was a pause, then a whisper that chilled his spine. "The ones below the tower. They built it to speak." You opened the frequency again. The phone went dark. Evan stared at the blank screen, his mind racing. The ones below the tower. The hum under the floorboards. The vibrations. The whispers, none of it had been hallucination. Someone or something was using the old radio tower to communicate, feeding through static like a signal bleeding through reality. He couldn't leave it there. He needed answers proof. By 11:40 p.m., he was back at the forest trail. The moon was low, the trees skeletal in the dim light. His flashlight flickered, but he pressed on until the tower appeared through the mist, tall and silent. The building's boarded windows were shattered now. Inside, dust floated through beams of moonlight. The microphone was gone, but the on-air sign glowed faintly again, pulsing in rhythm, almost like a heartbeat. Evan set up his recorder on the desk, breathing heavily. This is Evan Ward, returning to station 103.6. The Beacon. I'm here to document the phenomenon. The air cut him off. The static wasn't through his radio anymore. TE was in the room itself, vibrating in the walls, crawling up from the floor. The boards beneath him began to creak. He aimed his flashlight down. Cracks were spreading across the wood, thin at first, then splitting wide open. Cold air rushed up from below. Not wind, but suction, like something pulling him down. He dropped to his knees and shone the light into the crack. Underneath the station was not soil. It was metal rows of corroded cables, old transmitters, and something else. Something large, spherical, wrapped in wiring that pulsed faintly like veins. The sound of static grew louder, transforming into faint voices, hundreds of them. Crying, laughing, begging. He realized what he was looking at. A transmitter, a machine, and inside it, faces. Human faces pressed against the surface and their mouths open in silent screams, eyes clouded like glass. He stumbled backward, gasping. His foot hit something solid, a reel-to-reel recorder that wasn't there before. The tape inside was spinning. Then the voice came, clear and sharp, echoing through the speakers. Welcome back, listeners. Tonight's guest is Evan Ward. He turned toward the door, but Margot stood there. She looked just as she had in 1979. Headset still on, eyes glowing faintly white. She smiled, soft and familiar, but her voice trembled as she spoke. I told you not to come back. Margot, he said, shaking. What is this? What's under there? Her smile faded. It's not a place, Evan. It's a signal. The frequency feeds on those who listen too long. When I died on air, I wasn't the first, and you won't be the last. The room began to warp, the lights flickering. Every piece of equipment came alive, dials spinning, speakers humming, tape reels whirring backward. The static grew deafening. Evan screamed over the noise. "Then help me shut it down." "I can't," she said softly. "Once you broadcast, you belong to it." The mid. Boards beneath him split completely. He fell through darkness, hitting cold metal below. The air shimmered with electricity. The giant sphere pulsed, brighter now, as whispers filled the air. His recorder landed beside him, still blinking red. Through the noise, he heard his own voice, not live, but from the recorder. "This is Evan Ward, coming to you live from the beacon. Stay tuned." He looked down. The sphere was opening. The faces on its surface twisted toward him, mouths moving in unison. Margot's voice whispered from everywhere and nowhere. "They hear you now." Light exploded. Morning came. The tower was silent. The air smelled like ozone and ash. A forest ranger found Evan's car parked by the trail, door open, keys still inside. Inside the tower, nothing remained but a single recorder lying on the floor, still running. The last minute of audio contained only static, until, faintly, Evan's voice whispered through, "Don't tune in, don't listen. Once you hear it, it hears you back." The tape cut out. But that night, at exactly 12:03 a.m., radios across Colorado flickered to life with a new broadcast. "This is the beacon," a man's voice said calmly. "We're live again." And somewhere deep beneath the mountain, the transmitter pulsed once more, waiting for the next listener to tune in. If you thought this story was chilling, the next one will keep you up all night. Subscribe before your radio turns on by itself.